Welcome, ladies and gents, to the driver ratings of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and it's that time where I go through and rate each and every one of the drivers, how they got on over the whole weekend. And there's some decisions you may agree with, may not agree with. Let me know in your comments below. Let's get to it. And as ever, we'll start with the race winner, Oscar the Man Piastri, OP81, and he delivered this weekend. He looked absolutely on it, just missed out on pole position by 0.010 of a second. In the race, he got the brilliant start, and that's what set up his race win. But for that, I think it might have been Max Verstappen taking that lead. I don't think McLaren had enough when following to, bridge the difference and make that up, because the tyre deg wasn't really there in the race, and that's the big struggle that we've seen with Red Bulls, and it wasn't there really. But Oscar did the job. What a launch he got, put Max under pressure. I've seen there's lots of debates around this. Was it a pen? Was it not a pen? I've seen some onboards and some telemetry on this, and it looks like actually Max brakes before Oscar Piastri, but we know that that's the way Max takes corners, and so therefore it wasn't Max just hammering on the brakes and therefore just leaving it to run wide, and the excuse that he pushed me out wide to take and then landed him that penalty point. Oscar Piastri late, but he actually made the corner. He was ahead. I've seen the footage a few times now. He was actually ahead into the apex of Max Verstappen, and we're seeing penalties like this given out. I think it was Austin last year to Lando Norris, where he got a 5-second penalty for something similar. So I stand by my original choice. It was a penalty for Max Verstappen, and Oscar Piastri took full advantage of that, and rightly so. I mean, even in that first stint was 2.5 seconds behind Max Verstappen, and I think it was a very good call to pit him on lap 19 when they did. Had just enough of a gap behind to pull him out in clear air effectively. Adding about 3 or 4 seconds to Lewis Hamilton, who he made short shift of passing him with a brilliant move around the outside. So brave where all the marbles were. And it was crucial actually, because we've seen what happened with Max Verstappen trying to get past Lewis Hamilton. He struggled for a bit, and that cost him about a second there. The early pit stop helped McLaren. They could have used the fresher tyres. The undercut was stronger in Saudi, so a good call when they did do that. Crucial passes when he got them and needed them, and now he takes himself to a 10-point lead in the constructors in the drivers' championship with that one. So a brilliant job from Oscar. But for that first turn or that last corner incident in Australia, where it cost him big points, he'd be leading the way handsomely, but it's not to be. But a good 10-point lead in the championship, and the surprise man's potentially, because everyone's looking at Lando Norris to lead this McLaren team, but Oscar's 2 wins now in 5 races. He's been brilliant. Got closer in the qualifying where I thought Norris potentially might have had the edge, but it's not worked out that way, and he just seems super cool, super calm, and delivers under pressure, and this one was another performances like that. And for me, I've given him nothing but a 10 out of 10. Second place man, Max Verstappen, with a fantastic qualifying lap again, like we've seen in Japan. He was absolutely brilliant, nicked that pole position, because again it looked like McLaren would be on pole position, and Max Verstappen pulls off an incredible lap like he's done around here in the past. He absolutely loved this circuit, and it shows. The 5-second penalty, I've mentioned that already in the video when talking about Oscar. I think it was deserved a little bit. Should he have been a bit more wise to give it back and then just followed Oscar Piastri, or did he know it was the race was just being in track position, being behind damages the tyres too much, and that's why he kind of risked it to sort of make that work. Nearly came off with him. He was fast in the end, which was the big bit for Red Bull, weren't they? They really have come on strong in races. We've seen that last time out as well, where he nicked that 6th place in the end, and so he's done the same. Not this weekend, but really closed up on Oscar Piastri in that McLaren. Finished just nearly 2.5-3 seconds behind. So it's really close, these races. I know we've got McLaren have got the advantage, but when come race day, they're not running away with it. I mean, Oscar did last time out, but other than that, we've not really seen that happen an awful lot, which is really good for the championship. Really good to see. Max Verstappen, I think he probably got the max. I look like he could have won that race, to be fair. I'm not going to say he got the max amount of him, because I think but for that 5-second penalty, I'm going to put my neck on the line. Max Verstappen wins that race. And I don't think I'm the only one with that view. A brilliant qualifying session. It's a hard one to rate Max's weekend, but I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. Third place man, Charles Leclerc, and what a race from him. Fourth in qualifying, a really good session from him, but in the race it did not look like at all at any point that P3 podium was on. The first stint was really good. The way he managed them tyres and was still pulling out really good performance on really worn mediums really made his race. He came out, just 3.6 seconds behind George Russell. A very good move on him, and then just held back Lando Norris when that charge came. But when Norris got close, there was a point where he thought if he'd got him early and quick, then Charles might have been in trouble, but that didn't really happen. And the longer that went on, you thought Charles has got this under control. In a car that we've seen is nowhere near front-running pace, Charles was over the moon. The Ferrari boys maximised everything. The strategy really worked. The pit stops were bang on. I mean, they were pulling off 2-second pit stops, the Ferrari guys. They have done for much of this season. A much improved part of that team is their pit stops, and it's shown. Strategy was actually good because we've criticised Ferrari before. They nearly pulled it off last time out. The safety car scuppered them then. It really worked for them this time again. So strategy guys getting things back on ball, aren't they, at Ferrari? And Charles Leclerc with an absolutely tremendous P3, overjoyed for him. A fantastic drive, a 10 out of 10 for me. Fourth place man, Lando Norris, who absolutely binned it in qualifying, started in P10. That was the big point really that cost him second, third place. Would he have finished third? Well, definitely would have finished third. Would he have finished ahead of Max Piastri? I mean, who knows? But he should have finished probably one place higher up as an absolute definite. But in the race, he made good passes on Carlos Sainz, good pass on Antonelli. He was actually really good. The only one that he really struggled against was Lewis Hamilton. What was it? Lap 15, where he took 2 laps to get past Lewis Hamilton, and I think that really cost him. I'm surprised he went for that move to take the pass on the last corner rather than just running down and using the DRS down into turn 1, where it was easy when he did that eventually. But I think you could just understand his impatience a little bit at that stage in the race, where he just wanted to make the moves, get in quick, get out, and just, run away with it further up the field. And then I think he was probably also surprised at the pace that Max Verstappen had and Charles Leclerc had when they pitted. Charles Leclerc especially, because I think for all the world he thought it'd be guaranteed a podium of getting quickly up to the back of that Ferrari on the fresh mediums that he put out on at that time. But it wasn't to be. Them two drove brilliantly well. Lando Norris, I'd say a good recovery drive from 10th to 4th, but it really cost him his qualifying performance. For overall for this weekend, I've given him a 7 out of 10. Fifth place man, George Russell, with a brilliant qualifying session to qualify in P3. In the race, he probably was disappointed he finished 5th in the end, but there just wasn't enough pace in the end. He was, 18 seconds behind Lando Norris in the end. He was losing about a second a lap towards the end of the race because he just said his tyres overheated and he just couldn't ever bring them back. But he was comfortably ahead of Kimi Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton behind him. A little bit of no man's land, but that's, he said, all that Mercedes wrote for this weekend. Another solid job, but nothing massively impressive. But George does a decent job, I think. 7 out of 10 for me. Sixth place man, Kimi Antonelli, started in 5th, finished in 6th place in the end. I think he drove really well, this kid. He's been the most impressive, along, like I've said this before, with Isaac Hadjar of the rookies. Just behind George Russell, and kept Lewis Hamilton behind in the end. He was pushing like mad, wasn't he? Clipped the wall twice from him, but luckily he got away with it. So another good job, but again, he was struggling with tyres as well. Once they overheated, just couldn't get them back in the zone. And I think the Mercedes car overall struggled around here compared to what they've done before. They were thinking potentially at one point would they be closer to the guys ahead. They slipped back a little bit here this weekend, but I'm expecting them to bounce back in Miami. Kimi Antonelli drove well. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. 7th place man, Lewis Hamilton, started in 7th, finished in 7th, and he just said he had an absolute stinker this weekend. Just couldn't get to grips with the car, was sliding front and back, couldn't get the rear to rotate, was sliding. Then he was one though that I thought, should he have started on the hards, a bit like Lando Norris, but was he just fearing that he might lose places early on? But I did think he was in a position where potentially in a faster car than the guys ahead of him, and could he have made use of that hard early and then gone on the mediums later where the fuel would have been low and he could have probably got a bit more performance out of that mediums? Would that have helped him out? So I think Ferrari potentially missed a trick with Lewis Hamilton on that one. We've seen that work with other guys, especially Lando Norris behind him. But I think, was he just looking to... I'm not sure what they were doing with that strategy, really, when I thought Lewis probably could have pushed a bit more out of that. But ultimately, it wasn't to be. He closed in on Kimi Antonelli towards the end of the race, where he seemed to find some pace. But before that, he was absolutely nowhere, comfortably beaten by his teammate. A difficult weekend for Lewis Hamilton. He looked like he was so downbeat that he was already talking about... going to have to look towards next year. Is he already writing off 25? Is he just thinking these cars, I can't get to grip with the way these new car or this regulation of cars work, and let's hope something of next year works more towards his liking. Who knows, but a difficult weekend. A 5 out of 10 for me. 8th place man Carlos Sainz, and I think he had a fantastic weekend. Qualified in 6th, finished in 8th in the race, probably the best he could have hoped for, and he and the Williams boys used that DRX tactic that he's sort of introduced to F1 so well, and helped his teammate bring home the double points finish, because Isaac Hadjar, had they been on different teams, potentially would have tried to pick both drivers off and had enough in them fresher tyres to do that, but the two Williams guys drove well, and Carlos Sainz shown at the end what kind of tyres he had underneath him. When the last lap came, he just sort of sprinted off and made 1.8 on Albon, so kind of showing that there was more performance in that Williams. They weren't just struggling, they just managed the car and managed both to the end to get there comfortably, and had they needed to push and give more, they could have done so. But yeah, absolutely brilliant job. Double point finish for the Williams. They can be massively happy with that, and Carlos Sainz have given him a 9 out of 10. 9th place finisher Alex Albon started in qualified in 11th. A little bit disappointing from him, made up 2 places obviously because Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda crashed ahead of him, and then just got behind Sainz. Like I said, used the DRS really well, defended from Isaac Hadjar, who was behind on the fresher tyres. He did say at the end though that he probably thought maybe if they just pushed, they might have had enough to keep him back anyway. Didn't really need to use that, but they used it well, and brought home some good and much needed points. For Alex Albon personally, a decent enough weekend, but he's been beaten by his teammate in qualifying and the race, so he probably wants to get back to the rhythm he was before of at least beating your teammate. We know that's where the competition is between these guys, but another solid performance from him. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. 10th place man Isaac Hadjar, and I thought he drove brilliantly well. Qualified, not his best, qualified in 14th, helped obviously by the 2 guys crashing ahead of him. That made him up 2 positions, and then in the race his strategy worked brilliantly well. Went long on the mediums, and then came racy in the end, or long on the medium, in the end, and then pushed a really good move around Fernando Alonso, who's no mean slouch, but from there on he had good race pace. It's a shame, like I said, that he came up behind the 2 Williams, but other than that, a really good solid race from this rookie. I'm being impressed with him this season. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. 11th place finish for Fernando Alonso, and I thought it was a good drive. He nearly got taken out by his own driver that he manages, isn't it, in Gabi Bortoleto, but in the car, in the race, it was a bit of a struggle for him. I think that's the best that she had in that car, really. 8 seconds behind Isaac Hadjar, not really any pressure in behind him. He said it's going to be difficult to look for some points in 25, and to finish 11th, probably just so close to finally get some good points on the board. It just, never looked like it was really there for him in that car, but for a couple more incidents, and they need kind of races like that where that happens to capitalise, according to Fernando. So a long way to go for Aston Martin. They've seemed to have derailed after the first 3 or 4 years where they were really hot when these new regs came out. Look a little bit nowhere now at the moment, but 7 out of 10 for me for Fernando Alonso. 12th place man Liam Lawson started there, finished there in the end. He got a 10 place penalty for going off track, so that cost him a P11, because that gave him 10 seconds, pushed him back to P12 behind Fernando Alonso. He needs to cut out this out, doesn't he? He got another multiple penalties in the last race, and kind of just needs to kick that side of out. We can't really be getting penalties like this, which just makes life even harder for him where he's struggling already. But it was not a great start to the race, got stuck behind in traffic, but overall I've got to say it's a better weekend. He was closer, he outqualified his teammate in the race. He's got beaten by his teammate, but he was closer up to the top 10 pack, and he's a good solid confidence building race, let's put it that way, and let's hope he can do more from here going forward. But for me, a 5 out of 10 this weekend. 13th place, Ollie Berman, qualified in 15th, finished in 13th in the end. A nice move around Jack Doohan was one of the probably his highlight of the race really for him, but the car struggled around here, struggled on its tyres, lacked pace, and it was probably the best he could have hoped for the way the car was handling. Haas really struggled at this circuit. I kind of didn't think they'd struggle as much as they did, but they did. Ollie did a decent enough job, but he beats his teammate, which is probably the best he can hope for. I'm giving him a 6 out of 10. 14th place finisher Esteban Ocon started in 19th, made up 5 places to finish in 14th place in the end. He pit under the safety car on lap 1 and then made them tyres go all the way to the end, and it was always going to be a struggle to do anything really exciting from there, let's put it that way. But his real difficulties has been his poor qualifying sessions, and that's something that he was pretty decent at last year, and this year he just seemed to have lost his way. Can't seem to get to the grips with the Haas just yet, but a couple more races, I'm sure he'll get better at that. A decent enough race in the end, but it was a struggle. They need updates in this car to make it faster. I'm giving him a 5 out of 10. 15th place finish for Nico Hülkenberg. He started in 18th, finished in 15th, thanks to obviously the 2 DNFs ahead of him. He just said the car had no speed, struggle on tyre deg as well, in a circuit where most of the cars said tyre deg was better. And we've seen Red Bulls at the front saying, you know, where tyre deg is high, we struggle the most. Most cars didn't suffer with deg. This car did. They've got an awful lot of work to do this Sauber. Will they be bringing any more upgrades to this car? Who knows? But I think they should really just put all their eggs in basket of 26 and hope for the best from there. And it looks like it'll just be a long struggle of a race season for them, the way things are going at the moment. Big updates needed, but are they going to be coming? Let's wait and see. A 5 out of 10 for me. 16th place man Lance Stroll started in 16th, finished in 16th in the end, and he had went long on the hards, didn't he? Went to lap 40 and he just sort of said we're really nowhere, and just hung it out for a safety car. It never came towards, apart from that first early one, which was too early to switch when you're on the hards, and a second safety car never came to sort of like a Hail Mary almost at the hoping up, which is sad times, isn't it, when you go into a race or pick a strategy where that's kind of all you're hoping for some decent points. It shows where he and the Aston Martin team is. I'm surprised they didn't just put some softs on him in the end, but apparently he only had one set of mediums and one set of hards for the race. So with only 10 to go though, would he have just better off putting on some worn softs and just see what they can do? They only had 10 laps to cover, so surprised they didn't do that to try and make more of it, but a difficult weekend. A 4 out of 10 for me. 17th place Jack Doohan started there, finished there like Lance Stroll. He pitted under the safety car on lap 1, but then he, unlike Lance Stroll, decided that, you know, this is not going to work and I'm going to really struggle, and then went for a second stop. That helped him to beat Gabi Bortoleto to the line, otherwise it would have been 18th for him. Literally was at 0.042, so really, really close in the end, but he just admitted that he really struggled. One of his hardest days in F1, and his qualifying performance is what need to sort of really improve, because we've seen what his teammate is doing and he just doesn't seem to be anywhere near that at the moment. So needs to just show he's got that raw 1 lap pace. Like I said, with most of the rookies, that's the big thing that you need to show. The rest of it will come later on, and it's been a difficult start for Jack Doohan so far, but he's still there plucking away. A difficult weekend for him though. I've given him a 4 out of 10. 18th place Gabi Bortoleto, qualified last, finished 18th, or the last of the runners basically. Pit under safety car lap 1. I mean, I don't know why they always go for this decision. He went for the hards off the mediums dead quickly. It's such a long way to go, but I guess they're just hoping for that Hail Mary, like I said, with Lance Stroll again there, just to see if there's anything possible at all. I guess it's something worth risking when you're so far down and your car's absolutely nowhere, but he definitely only had 1 hard and 1 medium, so when he did switch there was no other tyres for him really to go on. Could he have just done what Stroll did, pitted with 10 laps to go and debuted on a soft? I'm not too sure about that. Something they probably could have thought about, considering he was absolutely miles off. At one point in the lap in the race, he was about 5 or 6 seconds off, and he was comfortably a second off everybody else, and then he got beat by Jack Doohan on the line. Disappointing weekend from him. A 3 out of 10. We've got then the 2 DNFs. Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda took each other out on lap 1. Disappointing. Yuki started in P8 and then out on lap 1 couldn't really show what he'd got in the race. He was more disappointed with Gasly than the other way around, because Yuki had nowhere to go but a wall. I've seen the footage on that one. Pierre Gasly could have given himself a little bit more. Pierre saying he kind of had nowhere to go. Also, he probably had a lot more room than Yuki did, because Yuki only had a wall staring at him. So, yeah, lap one racing incident, it just seemed that's kind of the way it is. Again, no rating for him. A difficult weekend for them. Let's take a quick look at the predictions for review. For qualifying, I had Charles Leclerc on pole. A bit foolish that, but I thought the upgrades that they brought here would really do them wonders. Didn't really come up to life. Lando Norris in second and Oscar Piastri in third. But wow, what a lap we've seen from Max Verstappen to nick pole position of Oscar Piastri was second. And George Russell, the ever reliable, in P3. I thought it was a decent lap from him. In the race, I had Norris to win, Leclerc second and Piastri third. It was Piastri with the win, Verstappen second, and Charles Leclerc with a brilliant podium position. I did see him on the podium. I had him in second, but expected better from the Ferrari. I think he over-delivered. Was it a good weekend? I had a good weekend down for Ferraris. It was a brilliant P3 for them. There's no two ways about that. I'm taking the point there, despite getting nothing right in the predictions in qualifying and the race. I thought it'd be a bad weekend for the V-car, but Isaac Hadjar brought home points and better from Lawson. I think I'm probably wrong on that one. It was a struggle of a weekend, and the team that struggled most, I think, was the Haas team here. But there we have it. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. As always, we head to Miami next. Watch out for the preview coming soon and other content. See you then.